The castle of the Alpha King rose like a shadow against the crimson sunset. Its tall spires pierced the clouds, and its walls, carved from black stone, seemed to hum with ancient power. Inside, the corridors were wide and silent, lined with tapestries depicting battles and kings long gone. Each step echoed, and whispers of the past lingered in the cold air. Kale, a young Omega, shivered as he walked through the halls. He was small and slight, with hands calloused from years of labor, and eyes that seemed too cautious for the grandeur around him. He had been summoned to serve in the castle as punishment for defying a minor noble. The work was simple, yet every glance from the court reminded him that he was of low standing. He entered the castle gardens, seeking a moment of quiet. The garden was a hidden jewel, with vines climbing stone columns, flowers glowing faintly in the evening light, and fountains that whispered like old friends. Kale loved the solitude here, where he could breathe without the constant weight of judgment. Ilara, the Alpha King's daughter, sat beneath a twisted silver tree. She was slender and graceful, and despite her blindness, she moved with the careful confidence of someone who had learned to trust her other senses. Her long hair shimmered like moonlight, and a soft smile curved her lips as she listened to the wind in the branches. Kale did not notice her at first. He was tending to a small flower bed, brushing away dirt and weeds with trembling hands. The garden was his only escape from fear, from the harshness of the castle. Yet, as he worked, a misstep sent a small stone tumbling across the path. The clatter was sharp, and Ilara's head turned, her senses guiding her to the sound. "You startled me," she said softly. Kale froze. I'm sorry, my lady," he stammered, bowing deeply. His voice was barely more than a whisper, but the sound seemed to resonate in the air between them. Ilara reached out with one delicate hand, touching the space near Kale, as if to understand him. "There is something different about you," she said, her voice curious and gentle. "Something I cannot explain." Kale's heart pounded. He had been trained to lower his head and keep his distance from all those of higher rank, yet her words felt like a small warmth reaching him through a cold winter. "I am only an Omega, my lady. Nothing more," he said quietly, almost hoping she would not press further. But the garden was not as empty as it seemed. From a shadowed archway, the Alpha King, Thorian, watched. He had been inspecting the gardens, and what he saw made his chest tighten in ways he could not name. Kale, small and unremarkable, moved with a kind of sincerity that stirred something deep within the king. Thorian, known throughout the lands for his strength and unyielding rule, was blind in expression to his own heart. He had ruled with power, and yet, in this small garden, he felt something unfamiliar. Vulnerability, something fragile, almost human, yet achingly beautiful. Kale, unaware of the king's gaze, continued speaking to Ilara. "I did not mean to startle you," he said. "I am only trying to do my duty, to serve." Ilara tilted her head. "Do you always carry such fear?" she asked, a note of wonder in her voice. "Or is it something you hide?" Kale's hands clenched the dirt in the flower bed. "I hide everything," he admitted, "because the world does not care for someone like me." Ilara smiled softly, though there was a hint of sadness in it. "Perhaps the world is wrong, Kale," she said. "Perhaps it is people like you who are meant to teach it better." The words struck Kale like a bell in the quiet garden. He wanted to speak more, to tell her that she was the first person in his life who had not looked down on him, but fear held him back, and so he only nodded, awkward and unsure. From his hidden vantage, Thorian's hands tightened on the railing. He fought against the swell of emotion rising in him. The sight, or rather, the presence of Kale made him aware of a pain he had long ignored. His eyes, sharp and commanding, softened, and he felt the first twinge of something he could not name. Longing, regret, maybe even sorrow. Suddenly, a rustle from the outer gardens broke the delicate moment. Kale's head jerked up, and he stumbled slightly, brushing against a small fountain. Water splashed onto the stone path. Elara laughed lightly, a sound like silver bells, and reached for Kale's hand. "You are clumsy," she teased softly, though her tone carried warmth. "But somehow, it suits you." Kale's face burned. I am sorry, my lady," he stammered. But her hand on his arm steadied him. And for a moment, he felt something he had never allowed himself. Courage. The moment shattered when a messenger arrived, panting and wide-eyed. "Your Highness," he said, bowing to the king who had appeared behind him. "A curse spreads through the northern provinces. People are falling ill. Crops are dying. It grows stronger each day, and none can stop it." Elara's hand left Kale's arm. "A curse?" she whispered, fear threading through her words. Thorian's jaw tightened, but his eyes, when they flicked to Kale, betrayed the emotions he tried to hide. The Omega's courage, his simplicity, seemed tied to the events unfolding. Perhaps, thought the king, Kale's presence was not accidental. Perhaps the lowly Omega held a key that none had yet seen. Kale swallowed, suddenly aware that the world had grown much larger, much more dangerous. I will do what I can," he said quietly. Elara nodded, determination shining in her blind eyes. "Then we must leave soon," she said. "We cannot wait." Thorian stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "You will go together," he said. His eyes, unreadable, lingered on Kale. "But I will watch. Do not fail." Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. The words were not a threat, yet they carried weight heavier than stone. And the king's gaze, it was not just observation. It was pain. It was concern. It was something Kale could not yet understand. That night, Kale lay in his small chamber, staring at the ceiling. He replayed the day in his mind. The fleeting glimpse of Elara's vision. Her soft words. The laughter. The unexpected warmth. And the weight of Thorian's gaze. Something had shifted, though he did not know what. Something had begun that would change the lives of everyone in the castle, and far above him, in the tallest tower, Thorian could not sleep. The memory of Kale's trembling hands, the quiet strength in his eyes, haunted him. He closed his eyes, fighting back tears he could not allow himself to shed. The Alpha King, strongest in battle and feared by all, felt the stirrings of helplessness, of longing, and of a bond he could not yet name. A shadow moved across the castle walls. The curse that had begun in the northern provinces was closer than anyone realized. It whispered through the night wind, carrying with it fear, pain, and the promise of trials yet to come. Kale did not know that the next day would take him deeper into danger than he had ever imagined. He did not know that the Alpha King, silent and powerful, would follow him every step, watching as the Omega's courage and heart began to shape the fate of the kingdom. Elara, blind yet seeing more than most, whispered into the night. "I feel something. I cannot explain." Kale's chest tightened. He did not know that what they felt, the pull of destiny, of fear, of hope, was mirrored in Thorian's eyes as he watched from the shadows. And somewhere beyond the castle walls, the first signs of the curse began to stir, as if it knew that Kale, Elara, and Thorian were bound together by fate, by power, and by a thread of longing none of them could escape. The garden, silent under the silver moon, held its breath. The story was only beginning. The morning sun broke over the castle walls like molten gold, spilling light over the gardens and towers. Yet inside, the castle was still quiet, almost hesitant, as if it knew that danger moved closer with every passing hour. Kale, the young Omega, walked through the corridors with careful steps, his hands brushing the cool stone walls. He could feel the weight of the day ahead pressing down on him, not only the tasks he had to perform but the strange, unspoken attention of the Alpha King. Elara awaited him in the private garden, the place where Kale had first met her. Though she could not see, she always knew when he arrived. Today, she was calm but determined, her hand gliding over the petals of a flower, as if reading its shape through touch. "Kale," she said softly, Are you ready? Kael swallowed. He had never been ready for much in his life. But somehow, he knew this day would test him more than any labor or punishment. I will try, he said, voice low, but steady. Elara smiled, and there was something in her expression, a calm confidence that gave him courage. That is all anyone can do, she said. Even the strongest warriors make mistakes. The two of them stepped into the castle courtyard, unaware that Thorian watched from a shadowed balcony above. The Alpha King's eyes followed every movement of Kael's slight frame, every small gesture of care toward Elara. He could not explain the ache in his chest. He was a king, a leader feared by many. Yet here, in this quiet morning, he felt powerless against something far more subtle. The growing bond between his daughter and the Omega. Stay close, Thorian murmured to himself, almost as if speaking aloud would shatter his control. Do not falter. And yet, do not fail to see him. The journey began quietly. Kael led Elara through corridors, down spiral staircases, and into the outer gardens where the path to the northern forest began. The forest was thick with trees older than the castle itself, their branches twisted like ancient fingers, and whispers seemed to rise from the earth itself. Legends said the forest revealed truths, forced those who entered to face themselves, and sometimes, those truths were more dangerous than any enemy. Kael's heart pounded, each step feeling heavier than the last. He felt a strange mixture of fear and responsibility. If the curse was truly spreading, and the scholar's words were true, Elara's temporary magical sight would be the key to understanding it, and he, a lowly Omega, would have to protect her. You feel it too, don't you? Elara's voice was quiet, almost reverent. The forest. It watches, but not like a person. More like a mirror. Kael nodded. I feel it. But I will keep you safe, no matter what happens. Elara reached out, taking his hand. Kael froze for a moment. The warmth of her touch coursing through him like sunlight through a dark room. It was not just her hand, her presence, her trust, her belief in him, it was overwhelming. He squeezed her hand gently, silently promising to guard her, not knowing that this simple connection had not gone unnoticed. From the castle balcony, Thorian's fists clenched. The sight of Kael holding Elara's hand stirred emotions he had long hidden. Anger, protectiveness, jealousy, admiration, they all collided within him. He had trained himself to rule, to be strong, to suppress every weakness. Yet here, weakness had a name. Kael. The forest greeted them with an unnatural silence. Birds did not sing, and even the wind seemed hesitant, as if the trees themselves were waiting. Shadows twisted along the path, forming shapes that disappeared when looked at directly. Kael's stomach nodded, but he did not show it. He guided Elara carefully, using her hand to navigate roots and stones. You trust me, Kael said softly, almost to himself. I do, Elara replied, her tone firm. Do not doubt yourself. That is the only way forward. Kael wanted to believe her words, but doubt lingered like a shadow in his chest. He was small, inexperienced, and yet here he was, walking beside the Alpha King's daughter into a forest that had claimed stronger, braver souls. And yet, every step he took seemed to give him strength, as if the forest itself recognized courage even in the humblest of hearts. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The forest tested them subtly at first. A path that led nowhere. A tree that whispered fears aloud. The sound of distant cries that were not real but seemed almost tangible. Elara remained calm, her hand never leaving Kael's. Each challenge revealed a fragment of Kael's courage and patience. And with every obstacle, the bond between them deepened. Meanwhile, Thorian did not rest. He moved silently through hidden paths along the forest's edge, his armor glinting faintly in the dim light. He observed Kael from a distance, witnessing the Omega's courage, his careful attention to Elara's needs, and the way he never faltered, even when fear should have paralyzed him. Thorian's chest tightened with emotions he could not name. Rage at the curse, fear for his daughter, and a strange longing he had never allowed himself. As they ventured deeper, the forest grew darker, its magic stronger. Shapes appeared between the trees, phantoms of twisted light and shadow. Kale's hand tightened around Alara's. "Stay close," he whispered. "Do not let go." Alara nodded, her voice calm yet steady. "I will not. You are my eyes, Kale. Together, we can see through this." The words were simple, yet they carried weight that neither fully understood. Kale felt a surge of responsibility. Not just to protect Alara, but to prove to himself that he was capable, that he belonged in a world that had always looked down on him. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the trees, carrying whispers that chilled the bone. Shadows moved faster than the eye could follow, and a figure, cloaked in darkness, appeared on the path ahead. It was the first true test. The figure spoke, its voice a hollow echo. "You are not meant to walk freely here. One will fall, one will see, and one will be powerless to stop what comes." Alara's hand gripped Kale's tighter. "Kale, do you hear that?" Kale swallowed. Fear gripped him, but he forced himself to stand tall. "I hear it. But we move forward, together." The figure laughed softly, a sound that echoed through the trees. Then, as if the forest itself obeyed its will, shadows rose to block their path. The whispers grew louder, probing Kale's mind, stirring doubts he had buried for years. He saw visions, failures, shame, the possibility of losing Alara. Kale's knees threatened to buckle, but he held her hand firmly. I will not let go," he said. "No matter what I see, no matter what happens." Alara's hand squeezed his in response. "I trust you. I see you, Kale. Even when I cannot see the world, I see you." The words struck deeper than any sword. Kale felt courage swell inside him, stronger than fear. He stepped forward, leading Alara through the shadows. Each step required every ounce of focus and bravery. Yet, he did not waver, and far above, Thorian's heart ached. He watched Kale's strength, and with it came a pang of something he had long denied. Admiration, envy, and a deep, inexplicable sorrow. Tears threatened to fall, but he wiped them away, hiding the vulnerability from all but the forest itself. The figure in the shadows let out a sigh, almost disappointed. So strong, yet still fragile. "The choice is not yours alone." Kale did not hear the words directly, but their weight settled in his chest. He glanced at Alara, whose hand remained steady in his. Her trust gave him power he did not know he possessed. For the first time, he believed in himself, not for status, not for reward, but because he wanted to protect her, and because he could not bear the thought of failing her. Then, as the sun dipped lower, casting long, eerie shadows, the forest itself seemed to shift. Trees moved subtly, paths twisted unnaturally, and a sudden chill ran through the air. A figure, taller than any man and cloaked in darkness, blocked their way. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and Kale realized with a shiver that it was no mere forest phantom, it was the first true agent of the curse. Alara gasped, and Kale's heart pounded. He stepped in front of her instinctively, placing himself between the shadow and the girl he had sworn to protect. The shadow spoke in a voice that seemed to echo inside Kale's mind. "Only one may leave this forest untouched. One will fall, and the other will carry the burden of sight." Kale's grip on Alara's hand tightened. "I will not fail," he whispered. "Whatever happens, I will protect you." The shadow's eyes glowed brighter, and the air seemed to thrum with power. The forest had begun its trial, and somewhere in the distance, unseen, Thorian's chest ached as he watched, helpless to intervene. His fighting tears fell silently, knowing that Kale's courage would soon be tested beyond anything the world had yet demanded. The night fell fully, and the forest whispered their fates. The forest had grown darker, thicker, as if it were alive with eyes that watched every movement. Shadows curled between the twisted branches, and faint whispers clung to the wind, carrying fears Kael had never dared to face. Each step forward seemed heavier than the last, yet he would not falter. "Ilara," he whispered, his voice low but steady. "We must stay together. Do not let go of my hand." "I won't," she replied, her tone calm but resolute. "I trust you, Kael. I see more than others think because of you." Kael's chest tightened at her words. He had never felt seen like this, not by anyone, not even himself. The forest seemed to respond to his emotions, shifting around them, forming paths and shapes that revealed hidden truths. One moment, a tree's shadow looked like a monster. The next, it reflected Kael's own insecurities, every failure he had ever tried to forget. "Fear is here," Kael murmured. "It wants to stop us." Ilara's hand squeezed his. "Then we must walk through it. Together." They moved slowly, carefully. As the forest tested them further, a fallen tree blocked their path, its roots entwined with strange, glowing moss. Kael knelt to examine it, realizing that stepping over it would reveal a hidden gap filled with shadows that seemed bottomless. "I can feel it," he said, swallowing his fear. "We must step carefully, or it will pull us down." Ilara nodded, moving with grace as Kael guided her. He stepped first, and she followed, trusting him completely. Every nerve in his body screamed caution, but he did not falter. As they progressed, visions appeared. Kael saw moments from his past. Times when he had failed, when people laughed at him, when he had believed he was worthless. He wanted to look away, to escape the memories, but Ilara's presence grounded him. She did not judge him. She simply held his hand. "You are not your past, Kael," she whispered. "You are here. You are strong because you care." Her words were a lifeline. He felt warmth spread through him, giving him courage he had never known. For the first time, he realized that his strength was not in size or power. It was in heart, in bravery, in the ability to care deeply for someone else. And the forest, as if acknowledging this truth, shifted. Shadows softened, and a faint path appeared ahead, glowing with silver light. But the trial was not over. A low growl echoed through the trees, vibrating in their chests. From the darkness emerged a creature, neither fully beast nor spirit, its eyes glowing like molten gold. Kael stepped in front of Ilara instinctively, raising his hand as a shield, though he had no weapon. The creature's growl grew louder, resonating in his bones. It lunged forward, and Kael stumbled, but he caught himself, his hand still gripping Ilara's. "You will not harm her," he said firmly, though his voice shook. "I will protect her. I swear it." The creature hesitated, tilting its head, as if weighing his words. Then it attacked again, faster and stronger, its shadow stretching toward them. Kael ducked, pulled Ilara down, and led her to a small hollow beneath the roots of an ancient tree. They crouched together, hearts pounding, listening to the creature circle above them. Ilara whispered, "Kael, you are brave. I see your courage. It is stronger than the forest's darkness." Kael swallowed. Her words burned like fire in his chest. He had never been praised for bravery, only scorned for weakness. And yet here, in the shadow of the forest, with a creature ready to strike, her trust and admiration gave him power beyond fear. With careful steps, he led them out of the hollow, weaving between roots and shadows. The creature followed, relentless, testing their resolve. Kael's mind raced. He could not fight it physically, but then he remembered the scholar's words. The curse could be overcome not by strength, but by courage, compassion, and trust. He took a deep breath. "Ilara," he said quietly, "I need you to trust me completely. Close your eyes if you must, but feel my hand." "I am already trusting you," she said softly. "Always." Kael held her hand tighter, and with every step, he imagined the path ahead. The forest seemed to sense his certainty. its shadows twisting to form a corridor of silver light. The creature, sensing the shift, paused, snarling, and then slowly faded into the darkness, as if respecting their resolve. They collapsed together near a small stream, breathing heavily. Cale's heart still raced, and his hands shook from the effort. Elara reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "Cale, you were magnificent," she said, "not because of strength, but because of your heart." Cale looked at her, surprised by the sincerity in her voice. I am only doing what I must," he said, though the pride in his chest was undeniable. From the shadows at the forest's edge, Thorian watched. His fists were clenched, tears threatening again, as he saw the Omega small, humble, and yet radiant with courage protecting his daughter. The Alpha King's heart ached, torn between duty and a feeling he could not name. How could someone so low in rank awaken such a storm of emotion within him? The forest grew still, and the path ahead opened to a clearing bathed in silver moonlight. In the center stood an ancient stone altar, carved with runes that glowed faintly. Cale sensed the power radiating from it, and he realized this must be the heart of the forest's trial. "Elara," he said softly, guiding her to the clearing. "Stay close. This is important." The moment they stepped forward, a figure appeared on the altar, a woman-like spirit, her form shimmering with light and shadow. Her eyes glowed with the same gold as the creature that had attacked them, and her voice was a melody that seemed to echo in their minds. "Only one may claim the gift of sight fully," she said, "and one must face their deepest fear. The Omega has shown courage, but the path is not yet complete. One will be tested, and one will bear the weight of the forest's truth." Cale's heart sank. He felt the weight of responsibility crush him for a moment. But then Alara's hand found his. "We face it together," she said. "Whatever comes, we are not alone." He nodded, taking a deep breath, and stepped forward. The spirit's gaze fixed on him. And suddenly the forest shifted, revealing visions of Cale's deepest insecurities. His fear of failure, his shame at being lowborn, and the possibility of losing Elara forever. Cale's knees threatened to buckle, but he gritted his teeth. "I am not afraid," he whispered. I will not let you down. Not her. Not the king. Not the kingdom." The forest seemed to pause, as if waiting. Then the spirit spoke again. "Your courage is true. But the trial is not yet complete. You must face what you fear most, your own vulnerability." Cale felt the ground tremble beneath him. The shadows grew taller, twisting into the faces of those who had mocked him, scorned him, and doubted him. He wanted to flee, but Alara's hand kept him grounded. "You are strong, Cale," she whispered. "Stronger than the world says you are, and stronger than the fear you feel." He closed his eyes, focusing on her words, on her trust, on the bond they shared. The shadows roared, pressing closer, but Cale's resolve only grew. He stepped forward with Elara beside him, and the shadows dissolved like mist in the morning sun. The spirit smiled, a gentle, radiant light filling the clearing. "The courage of the heart has prevailed," she said. "The curse cannot harm those who walk with trust and love. But the forest has one final challenge, one that will demand sacrifice." Cale's hand trembled in Alara's. "Sacrifice? What must I do?" The spirit's gaze turned toward him, serious and unwavering. "The choice is yours alone. One will bear the burden of the forest. One will carry the sight beyond the darkness. Only then can the curse be fully confronted." Cale's stomach tightened. He looked at Elara, her blind eyes glowing with trust and determination. And in that moment, he understood that the trial was not just about the forest or the curse. It was about them, their bond, and the strength they had found in each other. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing, Thorian watched silently. His chest ached, his eyes wet with fighting tears, as he realized that Cale's courage and his heart were more powerful than anything he could command. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the weight of destiny. Cale knew that the next step would demand everything he had, and perhaps even more than that. But with Alara beside him, and the memory of the king's gaze in his mind, he was ready to face it. The forest held its breath, and the night seemed to stretch infinitely. A new danger stirred just beyond the clearing, something darker than shadows, waiting for the Omega's next move. The forest's silver light bathed the clearing as Kael and Alara faced the final challenge. The spirit hovered above the ancient altar, its golden eyes steady on Kael. Shadows danced around them, alive with power. And the air felt thick, as if every heartbeat echoed through the trees. "You have shown courage," the spirit said. "But the final choice must be made. One will bear the forest's burden. One will carry the gift of sight beyond the darkness. Only then can the curse be lifted." Kael's chest tightened. He looked at Alara, who reached for his hand without hesitation. Her trust was unwavering, her faith in him unshakable. And in that instant, Kael understood that the trial was not just about the forest, it was about him, about courage, and about love. "I will take it," Kael said quietly. "Whatever burden must fall, I will bear it. I will protect her." Alara's hand squeezed his. "You do not need to do it alone," she whispered. "We face it together." The spirit tilted its head, its voice softening. "Very well. But the burden is not light. The forest's truth will test you. You will see what you fear most. And only by accepting it can you prevail." Kael closed his eyes, summoning every ounce of courage he possessed. He felt the shadows around him tighten, pressing in, revealing the deepest corners of his mind. Doubt, fear, his lowborn past, the faces of those who had scorned him, the possibility of losing Alara. For a moment, he trembled. The weight of the forest threatened to crush him. But Alara's voice, gentle and strong, broke through the fear. "Kael," she said, "I see you. Not your past, not your fears. I see who you are now. Your courage, your heart. That is your truth. Trust it." He felt warmth spread from her hand through his body. With a deep breath, Kael opened his eyes and faced the shadows. Instead of shrinking, he stepped forward, acknowledging the fears that had haunted him. "I am not my past," he whispered. "I am not defined by what others say. I am me, and I will protect Alara, no matter the cost." The shadows wavered, twisting and shrinking, until they dissolved entirely. The forest seemed to sigh, the tension in the air lifting slightly. The spirit's eyes softened, and a faint smile touched its ethereal face. "You have passed the trial," the spirit said, "but one final act remains. The curse cannot be broken by courage alone, it requires sacrifice. One must give willingly, and one must accept the responsibility of vision. Only then will the kingdom be free." Kael's heart pounded. He understood immediately. The burden was his to bear, the pain, the responsibility, the weight of the forest's magic. He looked at Alara, whose blind eyes reflected trust and faith. He knew he could not fail her. "I accept," he said firmly. "Whatever is needed, I will carry it. Do not fear for me. As you now." Alara's hand rested on his cheek, tender and grounding. "You are not alone, Kael. You never will be. And the strength you give me, I feel it. I see it." The spirit's light grew, surrounding Kael in a golden glow. Shadows twisted, forming the final vision of what he feared most. A future without courage, without Alara, without purpose. The forest demanded that he confront it fully. Kael's knees shook, but he lifted his chin. "I accept all of it," he said. "My fear, my pain, my past. It does not define me. I choose to move forward. For her, for the kingdom, for myself." The forest trembled, the trees swaying as if acknowledging his resolve. The shadows vanished completely, leaving only a soft silver glow. The spirit's eyes softened further, and it lowered to the altar, bowing slightly. "The burden is yours," it said. "But with it comes the gift. You see the world now, not just with eyes, but with heart and truth. The curse is broken, and the kingdom is safe. But remember, true power lies not in fear or dominance, but in courage, trust, and love. Kale blinked, feeling a new clarity wash over him. He looked at Alara and saw the world differently, not with literal sight, but with a vision deeper than any he had known. Her trust, her strength, her belief in him. It shone brighter than any light. At that moment, movement stirred at the edge of the clearing. Thorian stepped from the shadows, his armor gleaming faintly in the moonlight. His eyes, usually stern and commanding, were wet with restrained tears. Kale felt a pang of something unfamiliar, an emotion that mixed fear, respect, and the realization of how much he had stirred in the king. You faced it," Thorian said, his voice tight. "And you did not falter." Kale bowed slightly, still trembling. "I did what I had to, my king. For her. For the kingdom." Thorian's chest ached. He wanted to say more, to admit the emotions he had long buried. The admiration, the sorrow, the longing. But words failed him. Instead, he nodded slowly. "You have proven yourself, more than I could have imagined." Alara stepped forward, her hand still in Kale's. "The forest has taught us all," she said softly. "Courage is not measured by strength or rank. It is measured by the heart." The three of them stood in silence, the weight of the trial settling around them like a gentle wind. The forest had given and taken, tested and revealed, and in its quiet aftermath, the bond between them had been forged. Kale was no longer just a low-born Omega. He was a protector, a bearer of truth, and someone who had proven that even the humblest heart could shape the fate of kingdoms. Thorian finally stepped closer, his hand resting briefly on Kale's shoulder. It was a gesture of respect, but also of unspoken understanding. Kale looked up at him, sensing the depth of what was unspoken, a mixture of pride, sorrow, and the faintest hint of longing that Thorian had never allowed himself to feel. The night air shifted, carrying a gentle breeze that rustled the silver leaves above. The forest seemed to breathe with them, acknowledging the courage, the sacrifice, and the truth revealed. "You have changed everything," Thorian said quietly, his voice almost a whisper. "Not just for my daughter, but for the kingdom, and perhaps for me." Kale felt the weight of the words, and for a moment, he saw the king not as an unyielding ruler, but as a man capable of feeling, of longing, of fighting against his own fears. Alara's hand still held his. "We are stronger together," she said, "and we will face whatever comes next." Side by side, Kale nodded, a warmth spreading through his chest. He realized that courage was not just about facing darkness, it was about trust, about connection, about love that gave strength when fear threatened to consume. The forest, now calm and still, seemed to bow in acknowledgement of their victory. The curse was lifted, but the journey had changed them all. Kale had grown beyond the fears that had held him. Alara had learned to trust not just her senses, but her heart. And Thorian, the Alpha King, had glimpsed the power of humility, of admiration, and of emotions long denied. As dawn broke, silver light spilling across the clearing, a distant figure watched from beyond the trees, a silent witness, holding a relic tied to the curse. The figure's presence was subtle, but it reminded Kale, Alara, and Thorian that their trials might not be entirely over. Fate was never fully tamed, and the forest's lessons lingered like an echo in their hearts. Kale turned to Alara, smiling softly. "We did it," he whispered. "Together." Alara's blind eyes glowed faintly in the morning light, but her smile was radiant. "Yes, together. And I see you, Kale. Truly." Thorian watched them, his chest still tight, but a sense of peace settling in his heart. The tears he had fought back were now gone, replaced by a deep, quiet pride. He understood that the strength of a kingdom and the heart of its people often came from the most unexpected places. The forest behind them, once dark and menacing, now stood serene, The knight's trials were over, but the bonds forged in shadow would last a lifetime. Kael had been tested, and he had emerged stronger. Elara had discovered courage in herself and in others, and Thorian had learned that even the strongest rulers could be humbled by trust, courage, and the quiet power of a brave heart. The wind carried the scent of new beginnings. The sun rose fully, bathing the clearing in golden light. For Kael, Elara, and Thorian, the kingdom was safe for now, but their hearts were forever changed. The story of courage, trust, and the unseen bonds between them would become legend, whispered through the halls of the castle, remembered by the forest, and carried forward in the hearts of those who understood that true power is measured not by strength or blood, but by love and courage in the face of darkness. And somewhere, beyond the horizon, the relic holder moved silently. A reminder that destiny never rests, and that even in victory, the story of courage, sacrifice, and hearts intertwined is never truly complete.